Guy Spier. He's CEO of Aquamarine Capital Management and joins us live from Zurich. Guy, I wanted to, start talking about the problem with succession in certain companies in just a second. But I guess my first question would be, do you own Apple shares, and would you be buying them or selling them right now?
Francine, good morning. It's a wonderful hot morning here in Zurich. I don't own Apple shares, and I personally do not invest in tech stocks, so I would not be buying them. I think that Apple's been an extremely popular company to own, and obviously its consumer products are everywhere. So I don't own it. But I actually think that the prospects for Apple to turn into a company like IBM or Microsoft that have lasted beyond their founders leaving the company are pretty good, actually.
And this is because, there was a strategy in place. We've been speaking to a lot of CEOs this morning, but also throughout the weeks. And, the succession plan is what worries them the most. Any CEO, especially a founding CEO, will say, I'm worried about who will come next.
Yes, and I think that some companies manage to build an incredible culture around them. And in the case of Apple, you have millions and millions of tremendously dedicated and loyal fans of the products. And that's been the case for an extremely long time. So I think that what you have at Apple is not just the people at the center, it's also the people at the periphery who contribute to that culture. And I think that Steve Jobs has done an amazing job at doing that. I'm one of many people who saw his video on the graduation of Stanford students, telling them to follow their heart. He's somebody who will continue to inspire people like me and others. In 50 years' time, he'll be one of the greats of American business, I think. I have a photograph on my wall up.
Yeah, go ahead. You have a photograph?
Yeah. I have a photograph on my wall up of Watson, founder of GE, Edison, excuse me, created the light bulb, many different products. He continues to inspire me and many other people like me today. I think that'll be the same with Steve Jobs, and he will inspire the management around him.
Yeah, and Guy, Steve Jobs, of course, has a great personality. He was very charismatic and really drove this company also in plain language speak, which means that everyone understood what he said. But it's going to be much more difficult to replace him, as it would be for Warren Buffett. He's also a great investor, but maybe not that, really the driver as Steve Jobs is, also in terms of technology.
Yes. That's absolutely right. I think that Warren Buffett has been thinking about succession probably for longer than Steve Jobs is. And Steve Jobs, in my mind, was a very hard guy to emulate because he truly is brilliantly creative, whereas Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger have made a career out of doing the ordinary thing consistently and thus getting great success. So I do think it's difficult, but it's just a challenge to Apple employees to beat the odds. And I think they have a good chance of it.
Guy, you say you've been inspired by Mr. Edison, who was a key hand in GE. You have other big businesses, IBM, but also Panasonic, Microsoft. Will Apple be remembered in 10, 15 years as one of those greats, despite not having CEO Steve Jobs at the helm?
I absolutely believe that. But there is no question, Francine, that within a year or two, there will be news stories about how it's all gone pear-shaped because Steve Jobs is not around. You can already see the news stories appearing. Yeah. But I think that corporate culture is something that, while we know that many large corporations do not survive beyond their founders, many large corporations do not continue to be large corporations. I'm betting on Apple, or I'm betting on Apple not in a business in an investment sense, but from a business perspective.
And Guy, when you make your decisions to invest in a company or not, do you take a very close look at succession plan? And if not, will you from now on, because it's so interlinked with the company's fortunes?
You always have to look at that. I would argue that when I look at some of the microcap stocks that I look at, that is much more important. I think that often the role of the CEO is tremendously overestimated. The truth is, Bill Gates has not been the CEO of Microsoft for a long time, and they've continued to pound out amazing cash flow over the period. And you have to look at the dominant position they've built in Office and realize that it's a large part because of that. We have a tendency to attribute all of the things that happened at a company to a CEO. And actually, when a company becomes large enough, it's not that much to do with the CEO, except perhaps in certain key moments.
Yeah,
and so Apple is on a run. It has been on a run. I'm sure they have a pipeline of products that they'll be bringing out over the next 3 or 4 years. It's really when a key decision comes in 5 years' time.
All right.
Will the leader at that time be able to take it forward?
Yeah, definitely. What investors have also been telling us that really the key will be in 2-3 years when they'll need new products. Guy Spier, thank you so much for joining us today.